Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to make an OP Death Knight in Oblivion Remastered. Now the Death Knight is an interesting character because they focus on not only the blade, heavy armor, but also some magic, so you can weave in some spells into your attacks. I also recommend having a summon alongside this because it can make things a lot easier for you to go about this game. So I'll be showing over the best skills, attributes, and birth signs to choose if you want to make yourself a powerful Death Knight as well. So as far as race and identity choices go, there's a couple standouts here. The Dark Elf is one of the best in Oblivion because not only good with sword, bow, and destruction magic, which is going to be a big focus of this build, the resistance to fire damage, which is massive, and they can also summon an Ancestral Ghost, which is actually super useful early in the game as enemies have a hard time hitting it. The fire resistance is massive though. The Breton is another great choice because they also get increased magicka, and in addition to this, they get magic resistance, which is massive and especially useful for any kind of character that's going to be going against other mages, so this one can be very useful as well. The High Elf gets an extra 100 magicka, which is super useful, but they take extra damage from frost, fire, and shock, so they can be a little bit of a lesser option, I guess, in terms of effectiveness. I wouldn't fully recommend Imperial. The Wood Elf is alright, but they're better for more so the bow attacking. Redguard is nice, but again, they don't have the best spellcasting compared to like a Breton or a Dark Elf here. Or, I mean, at the end of the day, it's your own personal preference. Nords aren't that great also because there's not much cold resistance needed in this game. So I would say the best two are Breton and the Dark Elf. As far as birth signs go, possibly one of the best is the Lord, giving yourself an 15 armor rating, which is super useful early on in the game, but also the magic resistance by 15% is also extremely useful. If you want to go with something that's going to help with your spellcast and overall health, the Lady will give you more willpower and endurance, which will give you more health, more magicka, and more fatigue regeneration as well. So that one can be nice. I do think that the probably best two would be Lord or the Atronach here, which can't regenerate your magicka, but anytime that you get a spell cast to you, you can absorb that magic. And you also get a 50% chance of absorbing those spells. And you get an extra 150 magicka, which is a lot actually. So Atronach can be extremely useful for that, although the downside is you do have to use potions. So if you take this, choose alchemy as your skill so you can make some potions for that. Wouldn't fully recommend the apprentice. Taking extra damage is not very useful. The warrior can be an okay one too. Getting more endurance and strength will make you better with melee attacking and overall health. The mage gives you the plus 50 magicka, but it's okay. The thief, however, is kind of interesting. It doesn't really benefit us as much, but the plus 10 to luck is nice because luck is a difficult attribute to level up in this game. It takes 4 of your 12 points to level it up one time, which is very costly. So that could be a good one if you're looking to get your stats maxed out early. But I would still say that the Lord and the Atronach are the two best, most interesting ones. Although with the Atronach, you gotta be mindful that you can't regenerate your magic. So these three, Lord, Lady, and Atronach being the best birth signs. As far as classes, we're going to create our own custom class. It's going to be much more powerful here. For the specialization, I would recommend going magic. This will give us a +5 bonus that increases the skills more rapidly. Combat can be an alright choice as well, but I think the magic rules out here as the best. As for our attributes, this is where it gets interesting because intelligence is really useful. This gets that +5 bonus at the start for better magicka and more spells you can cast at early game. Endurance is always one that you want to have. Those increase your maximum health and how quickly you regenerate health outside of combat. So for better survivability, this would be great, and more spells cast. Now, also, going with strength is great because it's going to give us also some more health, but also on top of that makes our weapon skills more powerful. This depends if you want to use a long sword or a smaller sword, like with the agility. I still think that strength's a great stat. However, intelligence or willpower will probably be our best. This gives you faster magicka regeneration. I think intelligence early game gives better bang for your buck, so endurance and intelligence would be the best too. Luck is also nice too, as I mentioned, because it does take more points to level up, but I think intelligence and endurance work best here. Now for our skills, this is where it gets pretty fun because we got a lot of options that I think work very well here. So the first one that we're going to focus on is our combat. So heavy armor, that's kind of what makes sense here. You could use light armor, and you could even take the heavy armor skill but use light armor in the early game since you may not have the stamina to be able to hold heavy armor. Now for the weapon, it depends if you want to use a blunt weapon or a blade. I personally prefer blade weapons. They have some of the best weapons in the game, so we're going with blade. And also getting armor can work well too, as this is going to help you regenerate or repair your armor. All these skills get a +20 bonus, so blade's going to be nice to have early game. I also think that block works pretty well too, so this will help you with mitigating damage while wearing or using a shield. So if you went with like a sword, a long sword, and a shield, that can work very well here. But if you wanted to use two-handed weapons, it's probably just best to go with blade. Now for our magic, this is two most powerful ones are going to be destruction and conjuration. Conjuration, because this allows us to create a summon which tanks for us, giving us the ability to attack and then spell cast from range if they are tanking for us. And destruction magic, enough said, it just makes sense. You can use spells that absorb health. I still think that like cold damage makes a lot of sense with a Death Knight. If you played World of Warcraft, you'll know exactly what I mean. So these two work great. Restoration's hard to go without because you do need the ability to heal yourself. So that one is great too. And then for our last one, I mentioned alchemy, especially if you're using the Atronach Birthsign, because this will allow you to create potions that can regenerate your stamina. Out of the stealth, there is like sneak is always a really useful one to have too. But again, I do think it's best to go with something else. Acrobatics and athletics are kind of not the best choices because they level up pretty quickly anyways as you run around and jump around quite a bit. So I would say either alchemy or mysticism here, or even illusion is nice too for ability to charm targets. This can reflect damage back at enemies, but alchemy gives you the ability to make potions, which makes a whole lot of sense for a Death Knight too, to be able to enhance their weapons and their overall health. So if you take the Atronach, go with the alchemy. If not, go with either the illusion or the mysticism. I think illusion works a little bit better with a Death Knight. So for our skills, we're going blade, block, heavy armor. If you don't want to block, take alchemy or even sneak as an option, but conjuration, destruction, illusion, and restoration for our skills. Now, as for weapons, there's a few standouts here. Chill Rend is really nice later in the game. This gives frost damage and weakness to frost. As I mentioned, Death Knights kind of go hand in hand with cold damage, so this works great. Dagger depletion or any type of depletion weapons to absorb magic is good too. If you have that on your weapon, you can cast spells and then absorb back your magic that you got used to cast those spells, which is extremely effective. The Ebony Blade is another extremely useful one. This has silence on strike and absorb health on strike, which, you know, it makes sense to be able to absorb health on a Death Knight. This does have a cool appearance here, so you could go with that. But Chill Rend being a unique version of the glass dagger, which is super, or the glass short sword is cool. Any type of frost damage makes sense. So even like a long sword of freezing can work well. Long sword of the glacier. Rug dump sword here looks really cool too. I feel like it fits the theming, especially with the Daedric armor. So you could go with that. And early game, Umbra, nice sword, doesn't have any weight, so that can be very useful as well. But I'll show you the Ebony Blade here, as this is a really useful weapon to have. When playing on higher difficulties, enemies sometimes get to be health sponges, so having a summon here like the Frost Atronach can help out with us as we got our absorb health here, so we can take out enemies a lot quicker than what you saw near the start of the video. So the nice thing with the Frost Atronach is it's got a lot of damage and it can be pretty tanky for you as well, especially if you're going against enemies that have a lot of resistances to other damage types. So you can see here with the absorbing damage is also really effective, or absorbing health here is really effective. We're going against some harder enemies here, so sometimes you do need a backpedal and kite. That's kind of the way that it goes in Oblivion. So I'm summoning in the Atronach there to be able to help tank a bit. He's getting up in my face, and yeah, things are going a little rough here. The nice thing is our Frost Atronach's doing a good job of blocking the hallway there for the other enemy to come after us, so that's the best part about conjuration, is you can get some really effective helpers like this Frost Atronach that is just extremely good. It blocked this Daedra from coming after me, which is super useful. So now using the Chill Rend Blade, I'm going to go ahead with the summoning in our summon there. And this blade is extremely useful because of the cold damage and applying the weakness to frost, so we can go in, deal that extra damage to targets because they are going to be taking 30% more damage from frost, and then our Frost Atronach's going to deal even more damage too. So this can be a really fun build in Oblivion Remastered. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have any questions. I guess the best skills to upgrade as you continue to play through this game would be to go with your endurance, max it out first, get your intelligence up, and then willpower as well. And strength, as you see it fit, to increase your carry capacity and overall melee damage. But spell casting is going to be a very effective way for us to go about dealing damage. So again, comments, questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.